Hi everyone, this is Chelsea from The Crafter Life. In this video I'm going to be making my striped Easter egg. You can find the crochet pattern for this egg at thecrafterlife.com. It's a pretty quick and fun project that's also a great way to use up some of your extra yarn, and it's fun to make several in different color combinations. As you can see, they're about 3 inches in size, so it's a great size for little ones to hold, and they would also be very pretty in an Easter display as part of your own decorations. So in order to get started, we can go over the materials. You'll obviously need your crochet hook. I used a 4.0 millimeter hook. You'll need some worsted weight yarn. For the one I'm going to do on this video, I'm using Red Heart Super Saver yarn in turquoise and for my main color. And then for the color of my stripes, I'm going to use Red Heart Super Saver in lavender. I'll actually be giving this egg to my daughter because she picked those colors. So obviously you're going to need your scissors and a sewing or tapestry needle for weaving in those ends, and then you're also going to need some polyester fiber fill for stuffing the egg. So now we can get started. So like I said, I'm using Red Heart Super Saver yarn in turquoise for my main color. So that's what you want to start with, your main color. And we're going to start this round 1 with a magic ring. And then a chain 1. And now we're going to work 6 single crochet stitches in the ring. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And once you have your 6 single crochet stitches worked, we're going to pull the ring closed. And then we're going to slip stitch in the first stitch of the round. So just make sure you have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then place a slip stitch in that first stitch. Mine's a little tight. There we go. And we do the slip stitch because we're doing joined rounds for this pattern. So for the end of each round, you're going to slip stitch to the first stitch of the round. So now we'll chain 1 to begin round 2. And round 2 is just to place 2 single crochet stitches in each stitch around, including the stitch we just placed our slip stitch in. So that's the first stitch of the round. So I'm going to go back in that same stitch and place 2 single crochet stitches in that same stitch. And then 2 in the next one, 3, 4, and then 2 in the next one, 5, 6, 2 in the next one, 7, 8, 2 in the next one, 9, 10, and 2 in the next one, 11, 12. And then I'm going to slip stitch in the first stitch of this round, and if you need to count around, make sure you have 12 stitches, and then slip stitch in that first stitch of the round. Okay, so we're just making basic circle shape right now. So to start round 3, we chain 1, and then we just follow the pattern, single crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 single crochet in the following stitch. So in this first stitch, I'm just going to work 1 single crochet stitch, and then in the next stitch, I'm going to work 2, And then in the next stitch I'm going to work 1, and in the next stitch I'm going to work 2, and I'm just going to follow that pattern the whole way around until I have 18 stitches. Okay, and once you check to make sure you have 18 stitches around, then you're going to place a slip stitch in that first stitch of the round to join it. Okay, so that completes round 3, and now to do round 4 we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to follow the pattern of placing 1 single crochet stitch in the first 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochet stitches in that next stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 and 2 in the next. It's just our pattern. We'll place 1 in this first one, 1 in the next one, and then 2 in the next one. And then 1 in the next one, 1 in the next one, and then 2 in the next one. Just keep going around with that pattern until you have 24 single crochet stitches in this round. And just count around and make sure you have 24, and then go ahead and place a slip stitch in the first stitch of this round to complete round 4. Okay, and then to begin round 5, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to repeat the pattern of just placing 1 single crochet stitch in the first 3, and then 2 in the next, and then 1 single crochet stitch in the next 3, and then 2 in the next, and we're going to do that around. So place 1 in this stitch, 1 in the next stitch, 1 in the next stitch, and 2 in the next stitch. And just keep doing that pattern around until you have 30 single crochet stitches. Okay, and then after you've checked to make sure you have 30 stitches around for round 5, go ahead and work your slip stitch in the first stitch of that round in order to join it. And so that completes round 5. Once we start round 6, that's at the end of round 6, we're going to change color to the your stripe color. So make sure you have that ready to go, and that will be done on the last stitch of round 6. So I'll show you how to do that once we get to the last stitch. So for round 6, chain 1, and then you're going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and then work 2 single crochet in the next stitch around. So you're just going to follow that pattern. So a single crochet in the first 4, and then 2 in the next, and we're going to follow that around. And then when you get to the very last stitch, I will explain how to change your color. Okay, so I'm on my second to last stitch. I have 1 more stitch to put in this last stitch here. And on this stitch we're going to change to purple. So how I like to do it is I start my single crochet out like normal, where I insert my hook and pull through a loop. So now I have 2 loops on my hook, and normally to complete the single crochet you would yarn over and pull through. But instead of doing that with my main color, I'm going to leave 2 loops in that main color on my hook, and then I'm going to grab my stripe color, which again I'm using Red Heart Super Saver in lavender, and I'm actually going to just pull through that color to complete this single crochet stitch like so. So that's how we're going to change colors for this pattern. You might already do it that way, but that's how I like to do it for these joined rounds. So you just pull through the new color when you're completing that very last single crochet of this row, which should be your 36th single crochet. So now we're just going to continue crocheting like normal, but now we have purple on our hook. And in order to kind of lock these 2 loose ends in, I'm going to use my working end here of this purple yarn and kind of lock it in by going around it. I'm going to pull them I'm gonna hold them for right now so they don't come loose. And then I'm gonna go ahead and work my slip stitch in that first stitch of this round. And again, I'm kind of holding on to these ends just so the yarn doesn't get too loose. Okay, and then I'm gonna take my hook under those other ends just to kind of lock them in, and I'm gonna pull through my purple, my working purple end into a slip stitch, just like so. And so now I'm ready to begin that next row. I already have purple on my hook. And so I'm gonna chain 1 to start round 7. And actually, if you have my pattern in front of you, I've done a reminder on there to make sure that you have woven in and secured the loose tail from the beginning magic ring, which I have not done yet. So now would be a good time to do that because as this egg works up, it gets a little narrower towards the top, so it's going to be harder to do later on. So now would be a good time to stop, and if you haven't done so already, pull your magic ring closed and then secure in this loose end. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now while I'm thinking about it. I'm going to take my hook off just so it's easier. And I always like to try to go through all those beginning stitches of that first round, kind of like under them on the back. To help keep that magic ring closed. And then once I've kind of gone under all the stitches around this way, then I kind of skip the one I just went under and then go back through a couple the other way just to lock it in place so it's extra secure. And the magic ring is closed, so it pulls that opening shut. And sometimes they're a little hard to get your needle through. That's why I like using a smaller needle. And then you can go ahead and cut off this loose end. I'm actually going to leave a little bit of extra there just because I can, because eventually that'll be the inside of the egg and you're not going to see it. Anyway. Now we can get back to where we left off with beginning of round 7. Okay. So on round 7, we're just going to basically place 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch around. So again, you're going to have 36 total stitches in this round. And again, we're going to start with that same stitch I just placed the slip stitch in. And I'm going to, again, these other ends here, my turquoise end and that loose end of the purple yarn, I'm going to kind of like do my stitch around those just to kind of hold them in place a little bit more so it doesn't come loose. And I've got my first single crochet stitch made for that round. And then I'm just going to place 1 single crochet in each of the other stitches. And after you've checked to make sure you have all 36 stitches, you can go ahead and slip stitch into the first stitch of this round. Join it. And now we're beginning to, now we can start round 8. And at the end of round 8, we're going to be changing back to our main color. So round 8, we're just gonna single crochet in each stitch around again, doing the same thing for round 7. Just stop when you get to your very last stitch, and then I'll show you how to change back to that main color, which is gonna be the same way we did it before, just completing that final single crochet. So a single crochet in each stitch around. Okay, so I'm about to do my 36th and final stitch. Remember, this is just a slip stitch here, so we don't want to, from that join of that last round, so we want to make sure we don't place a stitch in that by mistake. So I'm going to start my 36th stitch of row 8, and then I'm going to stop once I have my 2 loops on my hook, and I'm going to finish this single crochet stitch in the main color. So first I have to cut my yarn, because I haven't done that yet from the last time I used my main color, because in this pattern I suggest cutting the yarn after the color changes instead of pulling it up. But you're welcome to pull it up if you want. I just like cutting after each color change just to keep it less tangly for me. And so now I'm just going to pull through that main color yarn to complete this single crochet stitch. Just like so. And then, as I said before, you just want to kind of pull these non-working ends so it stays taut. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and do a slip stitch into that first stitch of the round. And again, I'm going to kind of take these non-working ends and put my hook under them and then bring this around this way just to kind of hold them better in place so they don't come loose. And then I'm going to chain 1 to start round 9, and then when I work my first stitch of round 9, in that same stitch I place the slip stitch. I'm going to also work under these 2 working ends just to kind of hold them, lock them in so they don't come loose. And actually rounds 9 through 12 are the same thing. You're just going to single crochet in each stitch around, so you'll have 36 stitches in each round. So it's just like the last 2 rounds where we're just placing 1 single crochet stitch per stitch around. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And again, this first stitch goes in that same stitch like normal, where we just place our slip stitch, and I'm going to kind of work my hook underneath these 2 non-working ends to lock them in when I do that first single crochet of round 9. And again, the next 4 rounds, 9, 10, 11, 12, are just going to be single crocheting around in that same color. Okay, so as I complete round 9, I'm going to make sure to place a slip stitch at that first stitch to finish the round. And then I'm going to do rows 10, 11, and 12 the exact same way. So chain 1 and start round 10. Just completed the last stitch of round 12. So we're going to begin round 13. So first I have to slip stitch in that first stitch of round 12. And then we'll need to chain 1. And then so round 13 is actually our first decrease round. So we're going to be repeating where we single crochet in 4 stitches, and then we single crochet 2 together, which is a single crochet decrease. I'll demonstrate that when we get there. So first we're going to single crochet in these first 4 stitches, and remember the first stitch is done in the same stitch as the slip stitch. So here's the first one, and then in the next 3 we just place 1 single crochet in the next 3. Oops. All right, so you should have your first 4 single crochets, and now we're going to single crochet 2 together for that single crochet decrease. So all that means is you insert your hook under the next stitch and pull through a loop, and then instead of completing a single crochet, now we're going to insert our hook under the next stitch and pull through another loop. So now we have 3 loops on our hook, and then we're just going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And so that's single crocheting 2 together. So that's our first decrease of the round. So we're going to keep doing that around where we single crochet and then like in the next 4, and then single crochet the next 2 after those 4 together. And then stop once you get to that last single crochet 2 together or last single crochet decrease of the round, because we're going to be changing color on that. Okay, so I've come up on that last decrease stitch of the round. So I'm going to begin it just like normal. I'm going to insert my hook under that second to last stitch and pull up a loop, and then I'm going to insert my hook under the last stitch and pull up a loop. So now I have 3 loops on my hook, and instead of completing that single crochet decrease with my main color yarn, I'm going to use my stripe color to complete it, because the next round will be done in the stripe color. So first I have to cut off my lavender yarn, because I didn't do that from last time, and then get that ready to go. So again, I have 3 loops of the main color on my hook, and to complete that decrease, that single crochet decrease stitch, I'm going to pull through my other color. And same thing here, you want to make sure you take this main color end and kind of pull it so it stays taut, and then your non-working stripe color end, kind of pull it so it stays in place. And then you can complete the round with your slip stitch in the first stitch of the round. And again, I'm gonna work these non-working ends, or hold them underneath the stitch, so that way they stay in place. Okay, so now I have my slip stitch done, and then I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 to begin round 14. And round 14, we're just going to place a single crochet in each stitch around. So again, you should have 30 stitches now, because we just did that decrease round, we decreased by 6. So you should have 30 stitches total around when you do this round. Okay, so I'm going to slip stitch in that first stitch of the round, join. And now moving on to round 15, we're going to do the same thing where we just place a single crochet in each stitch around. However, when you get to the last stitch of round 15, stop, and then we're going to change color back to the main color. So I'm going to chain 1 to start round 15, and then get going. All right, so I'm coming up on that 30th stitch of round 15, so I'm just going to start it like normal, where I have 2 loops on my hook, and then I'm going to go ahead and get my main color ready. So I'm going to cut it off from the last time, and then pull it through to complete that single crochet stitch. And then put these non-working ends kind of underneath, behind. So that way when I put my slip stitch into that first stitch of the round, I'm going to put those on top of my hook, so they kind of lock in place with the slip stitch. And then I'm going to do my chain 1. So I'm ready to start round 16. But before I do start round 16, it might be a good time to stop and kind of tie in some of these loose ends before the egg starts to get even more narrow. And to be honest, since you're not going to see the inside, if you want to make it like a quick way to do this, as opposed to actually like weaving in the ends, what I did, and I'll kind of flip this so you can kind of see the inside right now, is I took my 2 yarn ends from when I did the color change that are right next to each other, and I just knotted them like this. And again, this is on the inside of the egg, thing. And typically I would take my tapestry needle and weave these in just to make it neater and to make sure these are nice and secure inside. But for this quick, easy project, typically what I do is I just snip it so there's a little bit of extra on that knot, because again, you're not gonna see it because it's inside the egg, and that just saves some time from weaving in the ends. But if you wanted to, you can go ahead and actually weave these in so it's a nice, neat project on the inside. And so you can make sure the ends are extra secure. But to save time, and since, you know, I'm just using this as a quick, easy project, I'm just gonna go ahead and knot them on the inside and then leave a little bit of extra on the ends because you're not gonna see it. And it just saves time. This is just a little egg for my daughter. And so at least I've caught up to that. And then once I get like another row or two, I'll go ahead and tie these last 2 off. So now to start round 16, it's going to be another decrease round, so we're going to repeat the pattern of single crocheting in the first stitch, and then single crocheting 2 together, and then single crochet and single crochet 2 together. So I'm going to go ahead and place a single crochet stitch in this first stitch of the round, and then we're going to do a single crochet decrease. So insert my hook under the next stitch, pull up a loop, then insert my hook again under the following stitch, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops to complete that single crochet decrease. And then I'm going to continue that pattern around, where I'm just doing 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then single crochet the next 2 together. So pull up a loop, and then insert. So I just completed the final decrease stitch of round 16. Now I'm going to slip stitch in the first stitch of the round to join it. And then what I might do is go ahead and secure these other ends that I haven't done yet on the inside from that last stripe color change. Because as you can see, it's already starting to get narrower. These. And I haven't cut that purple end yet, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And again, you can still weave these in if you want, just to keep your work neat. But if you're just doing it as a quick, fun project, that can save time since you're not going to see the loose ends on the inside anyway. I gotta get my yarn straightened out here. All right, so now I'm going to chain 1 and start round 17. And again, after round 16, you should have 20 total stitches around, so you might want to count and just verify that you have 20 before starting round 17. which is just a single crochet in each stitch around for round 17. So you'll have 20 at the end of this round as well. Okay, coming up on the end of round 17, I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch to my first stitch of that round. And then before moving to round 18, which is another decrease round, it gets significantly smaller in round 18. I'm going to go ahead and grab my fiber fill and start stuffing this egg, because as the top gets more narrow, it's going to get harder to get that fiber fill in there. So just take fiber fill, and I think what you're supposed to do is kind of stretch it out first, kind of just separate some of the pieces, probably so it gets as fluffy as possible. And then you just start filling your egg. I'm going to pull my loop a little longer so I don't lose it. And I like to stuff them enough, but I don't like to overstuff them. It's easier to shape if you don't overstuff, but it's totally up to your discretion. Preference, it's whatever you prefer. So just the majority of it, it would be a good time now to stuff the majority of it, just so when it gets narrower you only have a little bit more to add. I think that's good for me for now. Now just when you crochet, you kind of have to be a little careful that you're not picking up some of these little tiny fiber threads on your way, but you can easily just pull them out if you do. All right, so now we're gonna begin round 18. Again, I've already worked my slip stitch in the first round of round 17 to join the round, so I'm going to chain 1. And then round 18 is a complete decrease round, so we're going to single crochet 2 together around, so it's going to be just decreases the whole way around. So again, you're going to insert your hook under that first stitch, pull up a loop, insert your hook under the next stitch, pull up another loop, so you have 3 loops, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops to do that first decrease. And then you're just going to do that completely around, so you'll end up with 10 stitches by the end of the round. Okay, just completing the final decrease stitch of round 18, and I'm going to slip stitch in that first stitch of the round. Now as you can see, it's definitely gotten way more narrow by this point. If you want to add a little bit more fiber fill at this point, you can. I'm going to wait until the next row. But again, it's easier to add it now before it gets really small. Okay, so I'm going to chain 1 to start round 19. And round 19, we're just going to do the pattern where we single crochet in 3 stitches. Just place 1 single crochet stitch in 3 stitches. And then we're going to single crochet 2 around. So in the first 3, we're just going to place 1 single crochet stitch. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to single crochet the next 2 together for that decrease. Okay, and then we're going to single crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet those last 2 together, and that completes round 19. And then I'm just going to slip stitch in that first stitch to join it. Again, it gets a little harder to work with as this narrows. And now at this point I might add slightly more fiber fill just to fill in the top. But again, I don't like to overfill these because it's easier to shape when they're not quite as full. And you can use your crochet hook to kind of help you get it inside the narrow opening if you need to. Put a little more in. Okay, I think that's pretty good for my egg. And again, now would be a good time just to make sure you have all your fiber fill in the egg that you want before moving on to round 20. And then in round 20, we're going to single crochet. I'm going to chain 1 first. And then we're going to single crochet in the first 2 stitches, single crochet 2 together, and then single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then single crochet those last 2 together. So here we go. I'm going to single crochet in that first stitch, 1, single crochet in the next stitch, 2, single crochet the next 2 together. So this is a decrease that I'm doing. Then single crochet in the next 2 stitches. There's 1. Then here's 2. And then single crochet the last 2 stitches of the round together. And again, it gets really tight in here. Okay, and then to complete the round, we're going to slip stitch in that first stitch like normal. Okay, and you're going to have a slight bump up here, and we're going to take care of that with the next step. So we're going to fasten off, and we're going to leave a long tail for closing this opening at the top and weaving in our end. So I'm going to go ahead and cut, leaving a long tail, and then I'm going to fasten off first and pull that through. And then I'm going to grab my tapestry needle, and next we're going to work on closing this opening at the top and kind of getting rid of that ugly bump that we have right now. Okay, so once you've grabbed your tapestry needle, go ahead and thread your long tail you left through the needle. And now what we're going to do is we're going to close this opening by going through the front loop only of each of these stitches from round 20. And we're going to do that by taking our needle from the inside of the opening out. We're not going to go this way from the outside of the egg in. We're going to go from the inside out on the stitch. So here's my first stitch. So I'm going to find the front loop. And again, the front loop is the loop that's closest to the outside of the egg. And I'm going in this direction, inside out underneath that first front loop. And I'm going to pull the yarn through all the way. Not too tight yet. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the next stitch over in round 20 from the inside. I'm not going to go from this side. I'm going to go from the inside out through that, just the front loop only. Whoops, I almost caught the back loop on that one. Front loop only. And then again on the next stitch. And remember, there's 6 stitches from round 20. So you should do it for each one. So there's 3. And then the next stitch, 4. And then the next stitch, 5. So again, I'm just putting my needle through the front loop only of that round, not both loops, as you would a normal stitch in crochet. And then the last one. Okay. And then once you've done that, kind of pull the thread, not extremely hard, but just enough to close that opening. And as you can see, we still have that ugly bump, so we're going to take care of that right now. You're going to put your needle through the center of that closed opening. like so. And then you're gonna bring it out pretty much anywhere in your egg body, just not, obviously, not like in one of your stripes, because then, you know, this color will show through with the stripe. You wanna bring it out one of the main color spots in the egg. Pull it through. It's very important not to lose your yarn inside the egg, so make sure you have a good length on your tail here, on your needle, so it doesn't pop off the needle when it's on its way in. And then go ahead and pull that through so the top kind of goes in. And then before you do the next step, kind of like massage the egg almost, just to get the top back up in an appearance like you like. I think that looks pretty good. So that bump has kind of disappeared. Again, if you pull it too tight, it's going to bring that bump in, so you don't necessarily want to do that. So you just want to kind of work with it so you get that appearance that you want on the top of your egg. I think that's pretty good. And then what you're going to do to continue securing your yarn is about a stitch over from where you just came out. So I'm just going to go down maybe right in this spot here. So again, if you can see, my yarn's coming out of here. I'm going to take my needle back down through here, so about a stitch down from that. And then I'm just going to come out somewhere else on this main color part of the egg. And then I'm going to keep just doing that a couple times, just going one stitch over from where I just came out, and then maybe out somewhere else in the egg. And this is just to make sure your yarn doesn't come out and your egg doesn't fall apart. So I might do it one more time, because again, I don't think this egg is going to be too roughly handled or anything, so I think the yarn will be nice and secure. And then once you've done that enough times, go ahead and kind of pull your yarn a little bit tighter here, and then snip it as close to the egg as you can. And again, if you want to snip it a little further out, that's fine, because then you can just tuck it in. Snip your end as close to the egg as you can. And then I have just a tiny bit there. I don't know if you can see it sticking out or not, but I'm just gonna, you can use your needle, you can use whatever you need to push that inside the egg so it doesn't stick out. And that completes the egg. So now you have a fun little Easter egg. And you can make several more in different colors. Again, they look cute together. You can even make a solid one without doing the color change too. That could be pretty. Just instead of doing the color changes, just leave it all one color. So thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. You can check out my other crochet patterns at thecrafterlife.com. And I hope everyone has a happy Easter and a happy spring.